Good evening, good evening, good evening. Who helps you to celebrate your religious holiday, but then snitches on you to God on the judgment day? It's us, American Scouser TV podcast. That's the tinnitus to the cool people. And if you're watching in a part of the world that has already experienced sundown, then Eid Mubarak to you. Happy Eid al-Adha. I hope I said that right and didn't butcher it, because I can't even speak English properly, let alone start to speak Arabic. I mean, that is just a bad idea for everybody concerned. But we're joined by Brian and Sir Z tonight. Boys, how are we?
Doing great.
Good, James. Good.
We are not currently being joined on X, so if you're watching on X, you can't see us. We're on a show for you. There's not much happening in the world of soccer. There's some internationals, I believe, today. For the Nations League, Germany, Portugal yesterday, I think. And who was it today? Spain against somebody. France. Yeah, Spain won, I believe. Is that true?
I think it was about 5-4.
Yeah, 5-4. Yeah, it was a 9-goal thriller apparently. So that was good. But we're not going to talk about such nonsense, because that's not interesting to me, because I haven't seen it. Instead, we're going to do this. We're going to talk about the transfers that have happened so far and the potential in this short, weird mini window. We'll talk about the whole idea of Diaz going to Barcelona. I don't think I've ever seen a club so rapidly shut down a transfer rumor. But who knows? It could be a nice tactic to drive up his price. And his girlfriend certainly seems to have packed her bags already. And then we'll bring back, for old time's sake, an old Macka's moral dilemma. It's a toughie today. So you better be ready. We'll say a big hello to Cozzy. Can't be there. He's on baby duty. He's the baby, if anybody's wondering. He has to be minded. That's what we have to do every Thursday. We'll see. Hopefully Cozzy back next week. So, gentlemen, let us look first at the transfers that have happened that are not non-league or English Football League transfers so far. This is from the BBC website, so if it's wrong, it's their fault. So United straight out of the gate. Matthias Cunha from Wolves to Man United. Flecken gone to Bayer Leverkusen. On the whole, a big loss for Brentford, but then they bring in Queeveen Kelleher, our old mucker from Ireland, which you only like if you're Irish. Let's not go through that one again. And then Liam Delap to Chelsea. Not a move I would have considered. Rory Delap to Chelsea would have made more sense at one point. But here's my question, boys. What do we think of the transfers so far? We're still rumoured for Wirtz and for Kerkez. We want to be confident about and think that these deals are going through, and hopefully that is the case. But let's start with Chelsea. Cunha to United, pardon me. Cunha to United. My question, Brian, is that going to solve any problems for Man United, or are they still going to be stuck with players that don't fit a system for a coach who patently doesn't want to be there?
It doesn't help them. It really doesn't. I mean, I think that they were banking on Bruno Fernandes going there and leaving, because, again, I think that they still have to like we talked about last week, their books are still off by a lot. I mean, that they have to figure things out. I think that only thing that really does it there, it kind of gives you a reason to try to have to get rid of either Højlund or Zerke. And I don't know if you have anybody that's an actual good buyer for either one of them right there, especially – that none of them have really set the Premier League on fire with the performances. But as far as the defense goes, you still have aging defenders in there. It's like what Kazi was talking about through here. You have so many people, and their wage bill is so astronomical for mediocre talent that it doesn't solve anything. It's like putting basically putting a Band-Aid over a chest wound right there. I mean, you're still got the same exact problems right there, but you're not. I mean, you maybe have a nice little Band-Aid that maybe come there and put you and put you in a better spot. But if they come there and get Mbambu right there from and bring him in, that may help some right there. But they still have stuff they have to offload. I mean, you're still basically need to go there and see somebody who's going to buy Garnacho for a reasonable price, and also somebody who's going to buy Rashford for a reasonable price right there, since you didn't get rid of Fernandez. So in other words, I don't think I really saw much of anything. It may take him from 15th to 12th.
I mean, it's taken from 15 to yeah, that'd be great. There's a is it possible that Wirtz picking the ankle off Fernandez might tempt him to not want to be in the Premier League next year? That's the question. The question is this going to be a thing where, not to get current affairs, because we want these shows to be everlasting and evergreen, but the Department of Government Efficiency will have to go in and look at Manchester United's accounts because they've wasted so much money. Because that's almost like a Brendan Rodgers era Liverpool signing.
Yeah.
It's not a signing that says, if I was a Man United fan, we're going forward. Wirtz would be a signing that says we mean business now. Kerkez might be a signing that says we mean business. Bringing Kevin De Bruyne in a surprise, cross city transfer kind of thing might be an indication that they're serious. But Cunha, he's almost a squad player in a traditional Man United side, isn't
he? Yeah, I mean, there's two things. One, you have to question Cunha's ambition. And maybe he thinks he's obviously a big fish in a small pond at Wolves, and that going to Man United might obviously he's gonna use that club as a stepping stone for whatever, because I don't think there's any player in their right mind, unless you're like a hardcore Man United fan, that you'd really want to go to that club. I mean, these are just rumors, or like reports I've read. Like, apparently they had $100 million or £100 million to spend this summer. They've already spent 62 mil on Cunha. So they did have to sell to buy. With PSR, I think you're only allowed to lose 105 million over a 3-year period, and Man United's reported losses are exceeding 300 million over that 300 over the 3 years. So they really have to sell to buy. I think it's a vanity signing for Man United, and you think really no one really went in for Cunha. That doesn't mean to say that he's not a good player. I think he's just, if you see his off-field antics, his dressing room, the problems he causes with other players within that dressing room, it's a typical Man United signing. It's kind of a big name. It's a vanity signing, and it seems like a player that's going to have a lot of issues with other players in that club. If Bruno stays, Bruno's still going to be the big guy or the big name in that club, and I don't know if Cunha's Evo will be able to handle that. It's a messy signing, but given a choice, I'm glad he's gone to Man United and not Arsenal. I think if he went to Arsenal, I think he would have been a tasty prospect for Arsenal. So I'm glad he's gone to Man United in that sense. And we can understand what happens in the long term, but it's just a strange signing for Man United. I think it's a vanity signing for him.
Brian, if we're thinking about who they're being connected to, the next one that's on their list, so to speak, would be Brian Mbeumo, who is a good player in the Brentford system, but still, nevertheless, is another mid-table player. That says a lot about the ambition for Man. Apart from PSR kind of things. They're not really shopping in the top shop, are they? It's almost Mourinho's omelets and eggs from Waitrose all over again.
Well, the thing is, they lost the one thing that when it came there attracted players, European football, by losing against Spurs right there. I mean, that kind of killed that right there. So you basically have players that are just going off of the name or of the club itself. I think that Brian Mbeumo will basically be able to go right where Garnacho is right now and slot right in that position. But again, right there, you still have too many other problems in the back right there. I mean, you still have Luke Shaw, you still have all these guys right there that you're going to have to deal with that and it wasn't their midfield one of the biggest problems that they had throughout this whole season, and they've done nothing to come there and alleviate that. You basically have Fernandez and Manu right there, and you have nobody else in there that will be able to fix them. So I mean, they're going after these players right there because they have really no choice. I mean, one of my friends who coworkers right there who's a Man United supporter said that he'd rather go in there and get rid of most of them and play kids. But at least you're coming through and actually going and promoting and getting your system back straight and all that, and you're getting yourself back to being some solvability right there. But I mean, it's right now, who's going to buy these people with the wage structure that they're on, and also who's going to go there and pay over the odds for like players like Ugarte right there, who came there and done nothing. Who's going to pay for old Casemiro, who's basically been there and is aging and hasn't done nothing again. So I mean, again, they're the only assets that they really have right there on there that are actually that make them money are Garnacho, Manu, and Rashford. I mean, because they're the main big homegrown talents they have that come from their academy. So I mean, another one right there would be a Bod right there on the other side right there, but nobody's going to sell him. They're not going to sell him because they just tied him down to a big long-term deal. So there's a lot of problems. I mean, and I think that some players and some agents are looking at it and saying, hey, they're not digging out of this for another 3-4 seasons at least right there till they get to where they're going to be competing again. If I was a player right there and I saw that in there and I had ambition to win silverware, I don't think I'd want to go there.
Let's move on to Brentford, because that's a double whammy there. Now on the Discord channel, in a conversation I kept well out of, mostly because I was too tired and working. There was seemed like there was an idea that because Kelleher was only 18 million, he mustn't be that good. But Flecken went to Leverkusen for 8 million, so he must be 4 million better than Flecken. But we all know that's not the logic of any of this stuff, transfer-wise and finances and fees and all that kind of stuff. But Flecken had a great season by all accounts this season, but last season was left wanting regularly. According to Glenn, our resident Brentford fan on the EPL panel show. Is that a good swap for Brentford, Suzy? Is Crivin going there? That's a great move for him, and I don't think it's his last move by any stretch. I mean, a good season there, and he's back being headhunted again. But is that a good move for Brentford?
Yeah, they finally have a winner in that team, a player that's experience of winning. He's won the league. He's won the League Cup twice and FA Cup. He's coming from the best club in England, and he's a good lad as well. He comes from a good stock. He's been brought up the right way, professionally and off the field. He already knows SVP in defence. Thomas Frank's a good manager. He's a good coach. We had a good relationship with Klopp as well. So I'm sure a lot of them factors came into it. The price is nothing. I think it's I think it's more of a favour for Kelleher, and more of a respect for Kelleher that, look, you want to leave, we can't offer you football. We're not going to stand in your way. So whatever offer comes in, if it's a good offer and we think it's a good club for you, we'll direct you the right way. We've taken it. We've given 3 million to the club that we got him from. I think all around everyone wins in this transfer. Kelleher was desperate to move. Not on the levels of Trent wanting to move. Kelleher's still young, and he knew he's not going to take Alisson's spot anytime soon. And then we signed Marmalade, so it's even more of a doubt in his head. So all around, it's a good move. It's a good club to go to. It's the price tag is nothing. It was no point in trying to go into a bidding war or try and off him for 50, 60 million. Like it wasn't. It's unfair on Kelleher to do that, and that's just not the way we operate.
Brian, it's a good point about how Caoimhín Kelleher is leaving as opposed to Trent, because we kind of knew he was probably going to go, but he never did any secret hand signals or special dances to indicate interpretively what his intentions may or may not be. But his reason for going is fairly simple. I want to be a number one at a club, and I'll go to Brentford if that's what it takes to do it, because I feel I'm ready for it, as opposed to my mate Jude is there. I'm just going to go to Real Madrid, even though I've won everything here already, and there's still things to win. And by the way, I'm going to pick my nose with my left finger today, so you'll all know whether I'm staying or going. Like there was no media circus about it. It was just like the natural way players will leave when they can't get a shot. And that's how it's supposed to be done, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. And I really think that the club came there and said last year after we signed Marmalade, I guess I'll go like Cersei or go and says it there. After we signed him, I think that we came through and put him on loan. I think we sat down with Kelleher and told him, said, hey, you know what? Do another year for us, as a backup right there. Let's just get through this right there. The next summer right there, it's your call. And I think that's the right way to do it. And I think that Kelleher understood right there, and why would you not want a player to be a number one? That's your whole goal right there, as your whole career is to be a starter right there. And he did everything he could, but he wasn't as good as Allison, and he was never going to go out there and outdo Allison. So I mean, being the best backup in the league is still a backup. It's not the starter. And I think this is a good move for him right there. I think that of all the clubs I'd probably pick for him, I think that going with Frank right there is probably just a class move right there. Because I think all of us as Liverpool supporters have admired Frank right there and the way he plays and how he presents himself. And I think it's going to be a good place for Kelleher to grow. And I agree with you right there. I think that eventually right there what's going to happen is that Kelleher is going to probably have an outstanding season. He's going to get headhunted again. Because I think in the long run, right there, he's a top keeper, and but I mean, we'll see what happens in the window. I mean, we turned down 20 mil for him a couple of times already, right there, and 25. I think one time we turned down for him, and I think this is a good move, just as at 12 plus add-ons that we're asking for.
Now, this is a question for both of you, but we'll start with Suzy. Is Caoimhín Kelleher overrated? Let's start that going. Now, here's the thing on the Discord channel. Reading the discussion on that, which if you're not on the Discord channel, you should be, as well as liking, subscribing. But the point that one of that Jamie made, formerly of these parishes here, is that as Ireland fans, we've watched them for the under-17s, we've watched them for the under-21s, we've watched them play for the Irish senior team, so we've seen a lot more of them than the average Liverpool fan, because of course we're a small country and we take interest in what might be coming up through the ranks, that might give us the glory days back that we had under Jack Charlton. I'm sure it's the same for fans of the US men's national team. It's not a powerhouse in world football, so you're looking at the under-17s, you're looking at the under-21s, you're looking at MLS Next or whatever to see who might be, or USL2 or USL whatever, to see who might be the next generation of that will bring like glory to the team. But I can't. I mean, I hate to say, I've trained goalkeepers and I've played in goal as a fat guy who can't, had 2 feet either side of him to get the ball past. So you had to be good to get the ball past me. But I trained goalkeepers for 20 years, and it not. Well, I'm not going to say not to Caoimhín Kelleher's level. Certainly haven't. But there are certain things that you expect from a goalkeeper. And Caoimhín Kelleher does, let's say, 9 out of 10 of them really, 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 really well. I think maybe I don't think anybody would disagree his positioning sometimes can be a bit weak. But it's certainly not, to my mind, overrated. Maybe a little bit more hopeful for certain things, but Caoimhín Kelleher is a number one keeper right now at any club, maybe outside of the top 4, right?
Well, I mean, I think I've made my thoughts clear. I like Kelleher, and I think he can get into I think he can get to any one of them teams in the Premier League, barring maybe not Arsenal. He gets into the Chelsea team. He gets into the Newcastle team for me. He's been in the Liverpool team, and we just won the league. I don't understand this whole overrated thing. Like, overrated compared to what? He's the best, definitely the best number 2 probably in the world. He's still young. We question his positioning, but that comes through experience, just like defenders. There are people that are questioning Kwanzaa. He's only 20, 21, 22. Van Dijk didn't hit peak. Van Dijk didn't become the defender that he is until he ended up until it was like age 26. So I think with defenders and goalkeepers, they get better through experience. Alisson probably at the same age, he was probably no more better than Kelleher. And we bought Alisson at the age of 25, 26, I think. So no, I think he's unfairly judged. I think his shot stopping is brilliant. His penalty taking is brilliant. It's his. I just don't understand the negativity towards him. In honesty with you, like I said, I mean, you look at Manchester City, Ederson, he's fallen off. The backup keeper has had a nightmare all season. He's better than Onana. He's better than Chelsea's keeper. He's even Spurs. I just don't understand the negativity around him. But it's our loss is benefits. It's Brentford's gain, and good luck to them.
Brian, in terms of just to kind of wrap up the Queevy and Kelleher thing, I mean, it is true for goalkeepers. They last a lot longer these days than outfield players do. They don't have as many fitness issues in terms of sprinting injuries, etc. Mostly now contact injuries. But if you look at the overall package, I mean, he's good with his feet. In the modern game, that's as vital as any other skill. I don't agree with it. I think goalkeepers should be good with their hands first. But he's good with his feet. He is a good shot stopper. Maybe not a leader. Maybe that kind of thing might be something that holds him back right now until he gets a little bit of toughness into him as being the number 1 all the time every week and who's responsible. Because you can see Alisson having a go at the back 4 if things aren't quite right, especially if Van Dijk isn't there. That's what you need your goalkeeper to do. But his flaws are Jordan Pickford is considered a good goalkeeper in some quarters. I mean, it's ridiculous that nobody will bat an eyelid at that, but they should, and bat their little hands as well while they're at it. And Jordan Queevy and Kelleher is it the name? Is that what it is? Is that people just can't say the name correctly? It has to be something.
I mean, if you go back with there, 6 penalty saves and four Carabao Cup ties. I mean, that's hard to come across a keeper that can do that right there. I mean, so yes, I mean, I'm going to go with what Sir Z said. I've always liked Kelleher, and I don't think that he's anywhere near overrated. I don't know how that's was even a topic of discussion that happened on Discord, even though it lasted for, I mean, it was like a good 2 days, it seemed like, worth of Kelleher talk and all that. And it was like, I mean, we hear Jamie going back and forth with everybody else and all that. But I mean, I think that the thing is that was he better than Alisson? No. And so he was always going to be, as long as Alisson was this club, he was going to be the number 2. And that's it. I mean, and as far as like his placement and as far as his movement and stuff like that, you get that with playing runs and matches, and you're not going to get that here. I mean, not with Alisson there, and I think that Marmalade's going to come into the same exact issues and all that, which is why I don't understand why we're even bringing him back in here in this mix right now. Anyway, I think that we should. And I think we discussed this like a couple weeks ago and all that. I think that we should have came there and signed like a senior keeper right there who as a backup right there, just had to cover the things, and put and put Marmalade at another on loan at a club in the Premier League, and that was guaranteed that would give him minutes and get him to start and stuff like that to blood him. I mean, because I don't think that he's going to get the development that he needs to here at the moment, unless Allison all of a sudden right there goes and, as the rumors say, cuts his wage demands and moves to Galatasaray or some other thing I read about today and all that. Unless something like that happens right there, then we're still in the same exact boat that we were in. I mean, and I said this before. I don't think that his Kelleher's replacement has the same exact type of movement that we use, and I'm very, very concerned and about it. And I still like Gally and I said too. I think this is an investment move, and I'm still not sure that he's even going to come here. I'm still not sure. He says he's coming here. I'm not positive unless I see him running around in a training kit right there, and then getting on the bench. Then he's not here, and I'm still not convinced right there that that's going to happen.
Let's move on to not a controversial, not like completely non-controversial sign, but I'm scratching my head thinking of why, of all the things that Chelsea need, they decided Liam Delap was the answer to that. Suzy. I mean, it's not that he's a bad player. Again, that's another case of he does a lot of things that you want from a number 9, but one of the things he doesn't do, I don't think, is score at a dramatic rate that Chelsea might need for a club with their ambition. I mean, is this another case of Chelsea just vacuuming up players and then eventually sell them on for higher prices rather than an actual tactical need that Maresca wants for his number 9? What do you think?
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. It reminded me of when we bought Andy Carroll. It was I just can't fathom why. Maybe they're thinking with Cole Palmer behind him or whatever. It doesn't seem like a Maresca signing. It just very much seems like you said, just vacuuming young talent and trying to profit off them in like 2-3 years. I mean, what happened to Dewsbury Hall? I really don't remember him playing that much for Chelsea, and I know he's one of Carl's favourite players and he had a lot of potential. Maresca went to Chelsea, took Dewsbury Hall with him, and we've hardly seen him. And again, it's just like these young talented British players or just young talented players is going to Chelsea and just being churned out. And it's like maybe that's their game plan and just like buying them, selling them for profit to try and beat FFP rules, and it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And I'm surprised Arsenal didn't go for him. Again, another forward in there. For 30 million, it would have been a cheap option for Arsenal, and he probably would have got a lot more game time at Arsenal than he'll probably get at Chelsea. But yeah, it's just a weird one.
Brian, what do you think of the Delap to Chelsea move, number 1? And then number 2, speaking of Arsenal, is this going to be a case where they're waiting almost for the big name, the big ticket signing up front to please the fans? Or is Mikel Arteta going to try and be more clever than everybody else in the room and think that he can coach a team to win a league without a striker?
I mean, so the Chelsea thing really confuses with Delap right there. I'm really confused because right now you still have Nicholas Jackson and you have Nkuku right there on your books, and also the whole.
They're better than Delap right now, I think, as well. Maybe not fit enough, but help better.
Yeah, I mean, and then also you have the whole thing with them going after Nteke too, right there, and spending money on that. So I mean, what all do you need? I mean, it's just a case right there, like you're like, okay. So again, what system are you going to play right there that will involve bringing Delap right there, who is a classic number 9? I don't see where he fits in with their system at all right there. I mean, you can see Nicholas Jackson, who actually runs, and I don't think Nkoku was even who gave him a chance, in my opinion. I mean, with it, but Nicholas Jackson actually does more pressing and actually does more interplay. Delap doesn't really do that, and I think I'm just really, really confused by that right there. And it goes right there, and it's like, So it's like feast or famine right now, right there. You have Arsenal who have nobody, and you're going to have Chelsea that's going to have like has a potential of having 4 forwards because and the thing is it's going to be really hard for them to unload Nicholas Jackson at the moment because of what his record was this past season right there. So I think you're going to have problems with that right there. And also right there, the valuation you have for Nkunku right there, it's not going to even be anywhere near what anyone's going to play for him right there because, again, hasn't played. So, I mean, these are just problems that they're dealing with. And I don't know. I don't know how Liam Delap solves the issue with them. I mean, especially with Cole Palmer, the way he plays is a classic 10, or off the side of Nicholas Jackson. I don't know where they move him Delap into there because you're going to want a focal player out of a classic number 9, and you don't have anybody that supports a focal forward.
Maybe they think he's going to be as good at throw-ins as his dad was. Maybe he's going to throw his dad. Let's move on to a transfer that apparently is not happening, which is our boy Luis Diaz there with his frosted tips, the fool. That's why he stopped scoring. Barcelona apparently interested in him. Liverpool saying Suzy, no bueno. He's not going anywhere. But we're also not going to have a chat with him about a new contract. But he's not going anywhere. Is this a bit of smoke and mirrors here, do you think, for a 28-year-old who will never probably get bids that he's going to get this year again? Maybe he stays next year and he has a phenomenal season and then we get the maximum out of him. But do you think this is, Arne Slot saying, no, don't lose him. We might need him. Or Liverpool saying, yeah, we're going to let him go, but we're going to play coy until somebody gives us the right amount of money?
I think maybe reading between the lines, I think that is Barcelona. I think Michael Edwards had an issue with Barcelona with the whole Coutinho deal. And I think by part of, obviously, when they forced, obviously they tapped up Coutinho, Nike tapped up Coutinho. So Michael Edwards took control. All right, we'll sell him to you, but you can't touch any of our players for like 12 months or 24 months or what it was. So I think automatically we're just going to reject anything from Barcelona unless it's a really high, substantial bid. I don't think Barcelona's got much money, so they probably came in with a lowball bid anyway. And so I think we sent Barcelona on the way. Finally, we have control over a transfer where Diaz, to his credibility, he's not pushing for a move away.
His girlfriend is.
He's got, well, they come and go, don't they? So he's, there's a reason she's his girlfriend, not his wife. So
is it his wife?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
But there's a reason why. It's it's probably smart and knowing that once he gets married, that's it. She won't sign the prenup. Like I say, I mean, Diaz isn't forcing a move away, which is good. So we're still in control of the whole transfer. And I think if a big move comes in, and we accept it, Diaz will go. And he knows he's probably going to get at least double his wage. And obviously, we've got the Saudi, he's going to get 10 times his wage. So I think that's probably the conversation that Liverpool probably had with Diaz as well. Like, we don't, if the right offer comes in, we'll take it. But maybe if the deal is good for you in terms of the generational wealth and we get a good fee and everyone's happy. But so, unfortunately, I mean, I don't want to see him leave, but I don't see how he stays as well. And Gakpo definitely isn't going anywhere. Obviously, if we get Wirtz, I'm beginning to think we're not going to sell Jota. So, I don't know. I just don't see, as much as I don't want Diaz to leave, I think I think he's surplus to requirements, given the right amount of money coming in.
Brian, for me, when I think of how Diaz plays, he almost suits Atletico more than Barcelona. He's not going to Real Madrid because they're not going to buy Diaz at 28. But he almost seems like somebody where if he goes and plays for Simeone, he's the main attacker. Because they play such a defensive game, they really rely on their attackers being able to create their own goals. Whereas at Barcelona, he has to A, fit into a system, and B, it looks like it could be a very good team in a few years, and it's all based around those young players. That could be a Coutinho level failure of a move if he makes that. So if you're the people around Diaz, as much as the attraction of Barcelona for a South American player might be, you might want to think about that, because it doesn't always work out, does it?
No, it doesn't. And I think what you said right there, you hit the nail on the head right there. Basically, with the South American players, with their allure of either Barcelona or Real Madrid, you take your pick right there between the two of them right there. And I think that, and I agree with you. I think the Atletico would actually probably be a decent move for him. But again, the Atletico right there isn't going to. I don't know if anybody's going to pay the odds over the odds that we're looking at. That's why he was. I guess that's why he was kind of like the whole Saudi rumors were going around and stuff like that with the 75 million bid and stuff like that they were talking about. Is I think we're going to look for that type of money right there for him. But I think that in the long run, I don't think he's going to fit our next system. I think if we bring Verts in right there, I don't think that he fits, that he's an odd man out. I think there's a couple odd men out right there on there. I think he's one of them. And if we bring in another 9 or somebody of a class of like a forward, like a 10/9 type forward in there who has more mobility, I don't think we need Diaz. Diaz hugs the touchline. I don't think we're going to need that, because if you have Kirkes on that side, you already have a player that's going to be doing that. So you need somebody who's going to be able to come out there and play more inside, kind of like what we've been saying on Discord right there. Why with Frimpong right there, Mo's going to play more inside. And I think that's what you need to come with there. You're looking for a player who has that ability. We saw Diaz right there play down the middle, and even all three of us right here, and also throwing Kazi at that, we're like, okay, I'm done with this experiment. I'm done with it. And I think that you'd have to be in the same point right there again, right there, where is it going to be an experiment where you're going to put Diaz as instead of buying a forward, you're going to use Diaz as that forward there, which doesn't work, and I think we're going to have more issues. So, I mean, if the right money bid comes in, I think that Diaz is surplus to us. I mean, I think he's done well for us with the current architecture of how our system is. But I think if you're buying a 10, he doesn't fit anymore, because we're not going to be in a 3-4. We're not going to be in a 4-3-3 anymore with the system.
Well, now I had a look at Feyenoord under Slot, and then also, as I mentioned on the Discord, watched Slot as a player, because you can kind of get an idea of how a manager or a coach is going to approach a team, what a system might be from how he played. Or the complete opposite of how they played, as we all saw with George Graham. Like, Arsenal, people always saw Arsenal as the dour 1-0 defensive team, but George Graham was considered like the Matt Letizia of his day. He was a silky, skillful forward. But nevertheless, Feyenoord play with that false 9 a lot. So, like, to my mind, that's where Wirtz comes in. He's the one that makes those late runs, which means we need the 2 wide forwards, which Salah is one side. And I can only think of Gakpo on the other, because Gakpo connects a lot better, I think, than Diaz. Diaz is get the ball, head down, and run towards the goal for a shot. So if we assume Wirtz is the central player in that sort of 3 attackers, and he did play with actual number 9s, which would speak to Cersei. Was it Cersei said Jota may not be on his way? Yeah. I mean, he should be off to the knackers yard for glue at this point. But like, if we're starting to see the Slot system start to form, one of Gakpo and Diaz has to go, and Gakpo has both the age and the intelligence almost to connect on his side, doesn't he?
Yeah, and I think Slot likes the European type of play. But then you say this with Slot, unlike Klopp only knew one way of playing. With Slot, he literally changes games within or tactics within games, actually within the same half, if something's not working. So, I mean, I think with Diaz, he is a different option when Gakpo's not firing all cylinders or when he's injured. I mean, and Gakpo's shown that he can be he can pick up a few injuries here and there. And one thing that with Gakpo reminds me of Fabinho, when he comes back from injury, he needs a couple of games to get back on track. So we still need that option or that backup for Gakpo for sure. But yeah, Wirtz, I mean, he is such a luxury that I think he can play any position up front. But he's played false 9, and he can play number 10 role as well. So it'll be interesting how he uses it. It reminds me kind of Litmanen when he played at Ajax. It was just so he could do anything up front.
Brian, Kenny says, by the same logic, because he's. But that's the point of the false 9 is they have to start out wide because they draw the central defenders out into the wide areas because the central defenders don't have a striker to work with, and that's where the false 9 happens. That's where they're. Otherwise, it's a 4 diamond with 2 strikers that are like. So they got to start out wide. And I don't know why I did that because nobody could see my fingers at that point. But in that sense, Gakpo and Salah make a lot of sense. It's just a matter for me, I think, a question, and see if you agree, for whether Scott's going to play with that traditional number 9 that we've all been talking about and hoped that Núñez would be, or whether he's going to be a lot more subtle about it because he seems like he's a very, from what we've seen, winning the league and all that was great, but we're still trying to figure out what his style is. But what we do know is that he's an incredibly clever coach, isn't he? He's probably going to want horses for courses more than anything that we can talk about.
I mean, I really think that we are going to be hard pushing for number 9 right there because I think what you're going to have right there is you're going to have a number 9 up front. You're going to have Mo on the right, just a little bit off. It's off center from him. So more or less right there, you're going to have your number 9, and you're going to have Mo kind of off center with them, with Wirtz coming there, almost like you're going to have like a V kind of like on that front. Which basically comes there gives the whole ability. And I think McAllister is the other player that's going to go onto your left side right there because you're going to need them. And I think that, which what we talked about last week, I think that you're going to have Gravenberch actually drop back right there a little bit further and push into a back 3, which gives you both Kirkes and Frimpong to go there and make runs and to actually make it a more width right there. And I think that's going to, and I think the dynamics right there of having 2 playmakers with McAllister right there and also McAllister kind of playing more as an 8 right there. I think that you basically go there and have you kind of bring like a kind of a Steven Gerrard-ish type of kind of situation right there with the 8 with a playmaker on the side of them right there. So I think that gives out the best for both players. And I think that we have to go there and find a forward that can actually be able to support that. I mean, and that's where I think that there's going to be where we're willing to go there and also break the bank for a forward.
But let me ask you a question there, though, in your interpretation. If Gravenberch is dropping back into the back 3 on the ball in possession and McAllister's the playmaker, who's going to be the 6?
I think he's with that system right there. I think he's not going to go all the way back into a back 3, but I think he's he's going to basically put that into where your two center halves right there are going to be back in the back right there with a Gravenberch more drop back in a more depressed 6 role.
But what my worry would be if we're sending Kirkes and Frimpong both forward to maintain the width, if the ball breaks down one of the sides, Van Dijk or Konate have to go out and defend that, which means that we're missing a defender.
But see,
that's why I think it's not going to be as. I think McAllister will be the 6.
I mean, we've seen this right there. With
just in that phase of the game. Yeah. I
mean, and we've seen that whole thing with Robbo and Trent right there with basically timed organized runs. And I think that you're still going to come across that same situation where you're going to have timed runs. But I think that with it is that if you looked at the way that, like you're talking with Feyenoord right there, there's a lot more center play that moves out to the outside right there. And I think that you're going to see a lot more of that because I don't think he had the players to actually do that. And it goes back to the other odd man out right there, Szoboszlai. I don't think Szoboszlai fits the system at all right there with when you bring in Wirtz in right there. And I think that he may be the player right there as trying to reimagine him as a number 6, or go back as something like that where you can actually push him and have him there. But again, it's going to take discipline right there, with something that Slobozlai doesn't have, in my opinion. And I think that's where you're going to go there and look that you have him actually in the long run probably going to be another person who's going to be surplus to requirements right there with the new look Liverpool.
We've progressed into talking about possible future tactics, and I'm not going to bring us back because it's interesting. But have we factored in at all in our thinking the fact that just from looking at him on YouTube and all that Frimpong seems like a complete mad bastard? I mean, we have to factor that craziness in.
He's just like a kid that's got the present he wanted for Christmas. He just. Like, you see him, and it just seems like that little next to Van Dijk.
He's like a street soccer player almost sometimes, isn't he?
Yeah, it's like one of them techers, and he's just like a little brother. Like, he just like, I could tell, like, it's just going to be annoying where he just want to slap him, but he's just so happy. It's just I don't think I've seen this guy not have a smile on his face, and we've seen him with Leverkusen, and we've seen him with his teammates. They all love him, And I think the best way to judge a player is when the club that's letting him go, put a montage and a genuine goodbye message to the player, and you can tell how much they love him from. And again, their loss is our gain, and considering who we lost, and and we didn't really give him a goodbye, even though he tried to make the parade about himself. It's like two totally different ends of the spectrum, and I'm glad we got this one.
We could talk about that forever and ever, I think, but I want to torture you guys for a bit. But just to wrap it up, Brian, for Diaz, personally, what would you be of the same mentality of me, that if he goes, with our blessing, and let's hope we get a good price for him. But if he stays, I'm not too fussed. He does some good things. As Cosy says, though, he just does them in streaks.
I mean, he's a very streaky player right there. And again, the same thing goes with there. I mean, like what you said right there, I'd be more than happy if we get a good price for him. Anywhere upwards of 60 to 70 right there, I'd be willing to go there and let Diaz go. I mean, in a heartbeat right there. But I think if we don't get that and he plays, I think he has a part to play in this. I mean, it's like one of the things that was talked about Discord. We have a possibility of playing over 70 matches this coming season and all that. And you also have to throw in right there the African Nations Cup in the middle of the middle, which I think that Frimpong and all these European players are going to have a lot of say in these matches. So I mean, you have to go in there and go and look at a squad depth, and I think that Diaz gives us that depth right there because he is diverse enough that he can play across the front of the pitch. But again, it's saying he's a 28-year-old player whose assets who in FSG thought right there his numbers are going to dwindle as far as what they can get out of him, as far as a price for him. And if I think the right deal comes up, they're going to sell him.
And then just to keep it in proper Thursday night podcast form, we don't have the same sentiments for Darwin Núñez. If he's still here at the start of the season, we're smashing things. We are throwing things at windows. So with that said, let us start with the next phase of our mental derangement. It is Macka's moral dilemma. Here's what's going to happen, boys. And before we do this, let me see how we. Right, so that's the way to do it, I believe. We'll go with Sir Z because you were the last one to talk, Ryan. Right, I have a number between 1 and 5 written down on this card here, and the first one to gets to go first. Sir Z, you get the pick.
2.
Did I get it right? I can't see. It's 2. That's supposed to be proof that I'm not just being all nice. That didn't work whatsoever. But 2 is number, so you get to go first. So here's what's going to happen. There we go. See these 5 Liverpool legends: Kenny Dalglish, Ian Rush, Steven Gerrard, Mo Salah, and Van Dijk. It's going to be last man standing. You have to obliterate in room 4-3-3 style one of these players in the history of Liverpool. You've got to get rid of them forever and ever and ever, and all our achievements. It's not room for 3-3 now. They get to go back into the history at the end of the show. But we're going to see which of these legends we would rather keep in the history of Liverpool. If we had to make a pick to eliminate one. So you get to pick first.
Ian
And
Rush.
justify it.
Ian Rush, because we've replaced Ian Rush in a lot of, like, over the years. Be it through John Aldridge, Robbie Fowler, Michael Owen, Fernando Torres, Suarez, Salah, Mane. So Ian Rush was replaceable to the fact, like, I remember when we went to Juventus, and I think it was 7 or 8 at the time, and I was like absolutely losing it. And then John Aldridge came along, and it's like, wait, Ian Rush, who's Ian Rush? So on that basis, I think we can lose him. The rest of them, no. So yeah.
Well, you're gonna have to pick another one. You got to pick two. You're not going to pick the other one yet. Brian's got to get his first turn as well. But Brian, have you any arguments against losing Ian Rush from Liverpool's history, given he won us the '86 FA Cup and therefore the double all by himself?
I mean, where would we be without the Rush scores 4? I mean, there's so many things. I mean, oh man! But I see what Sir Z's saying with Aldridge coming in after him.
I mean, he literally was a replacement. You could have just put them together, and you wouldn't know which one was which. Except for Ian Rush had a 5-foot-long neck.
Yeah, I mean, and this the way Aldridge was right there, his attitude and stuff like that. He's just a cool guy. I mean, you know, and stuff like that. This is it's hard to say right there, but I mean, I'm gonna go with I'll go. I'm not gonna back behind Sir Z. I'll let it happen.
I mean, it's not real for 3, so he's eliminated anyway from this. So that just leaves.
I can't see any. I understand where Sir Z's going.
So let us look at who is remaining. There we go. So Rushy's out. That leaves Kenny, Salah, Van Dijk, and Steven Gerrard. Who's your first pick, Brian?
Verge.
Oh,
justify that, my friend.
So I think right there when Verge came there and first came on right there, I mean, has he become the best defender in the world? Yes. Have there been competitions right there in the long run about how much of his leadership role is right there? Has always been a talking point right there. He's kind of quiet. He's kind of, you know, he doesn't actually really go into in the extreme depths of like putting his hand behind somebody's neck, except for going at Trent a couple of times this past season, you know. But I mean, the achievements right there of Verge versus the achievements of the others would just don't matter. They're not there. I mean, he's a defender, and I guess, you know, in the big eyes right there, defenders are those other guys. So I'm gonna go with Verge.
So what do you think? He's the only defender in there.
I can't. 30 years without a league, and this guy, he literally changed. I don't know if you guys remember. I think when it was Liverpool's
just let me stop you there before you continue. I don't even remember yesterday. Go ahead.
Well, there was a thing that Liverpool did, the 100 most influential players for the club. I think we did it on their 100th birthday, whatever. Verge, for me, obviously he wasn't around then. He'll be up in the top 5 or top 3. Our defense was so poor, and to have carriers behind him, and he just literally changed that defense. And him and Alisson, probably 2 of the most influential players that we've bought over the last 30 years. So without Virgil's defending, without his leadership in defense, whether he's a yellow or not, just him on that pitch, forwards just give up. You know, they don't even try to take him on. And I don't think we would have achieved nearly as much as what we've achieved without Virgil in that defense. So I can't put him in there.
Well, I mean, he's gone anyway, but he does have the distinction of being yet another Liverpool player who came from Celtic. So there's that at least. Suzie, I believe it's your pick next. You've got King Kenny, King Mo, and King Stevie. One of them's got to go. That's why it's the moral dilemma.
I'll have to say Salah. I think, and it's just purely on the basis that Stevie, he did a lot with a lot of shit around him, and he's just very unfortunate. He didn't win the league to help us achieve what he did, and we're talking about single-handedly winning games. He did that. Compared to Salah, Salah can go missing in games, and we'll question, where's Salah? He's had a bad game. I don't think, from what I remember, I don't think Stevie G ever had a bad game for us. I don't think he did. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm remembering. I don't think he ever did. Even if he had a bad game, he never went missing. And Salah goes missing in games. And then we look at Kenny Dalglish. I think if Dalglish was Brazilian or Argentinian or Italian,
not Scottish.
Not Scottish, yeah. Everyone will be talking about him being one of the greatest ever. And Dalglish was just amazing, and I only saw the latter part of his career. From what just appreciating what he did, and yeah, Dalglish was just amazing. I think Rush got his goals because of Dalglish.
And his 5-foot-long neck. Let's not forget that. That must be remembered for all time.
I think Salah, for as great as he is, we're going to see someone replacing him eventually. And goals, you can buy players that can score goals. They're not wingers as much, or players like Salah, but you can't replace what Stevie G did for us, and you can't replace what Dalglish did for us.
Okay, Brian. Now, what do you say to Salah? Or Salah. We can get onto the CBG thing in a bit, but Salah out of the history. I mean, he does go missing, but we don't win two modern league titles without him. Just bearing in mind what we talked about with Rush, Aldridge, Torres, Owen, Fowler, Suarez, Sturridge. We've got a cast of fantastic forwards, but Salah's the one that brought the title home, isn't he? It's a tough
for Mo to be a winger, to be as influential as he's been, it's pretty amazing. I mean, to actually go there to actually go back and do an assist and of your goal influences that you had this past season right there, is pretty sharp right there. And really he could have done more, because you figure the last 5 matches he basically was a traveler right there hanging out. I think he was already on vacation right there. Just hanging out on the right side, just with sunglasses and a glass of lemonade right there, just waiting for a ball to come to him half the time right there. Mo's got a lot behind him. I think that that the amount that we owe. You were talking about with Van Dijk right there, Owen, of what he did. I don't think we'd accomplish any of this stuff without that we had right there without Mo being with Bobby and Mane. I think that combination right there with Mo being a very big piece of that right there, which drove up that side right there with Mane and Bobby to go there to excel. Mo's been outstanding. He's gone, but I probably wouldn't put Mo in that.
That was a tough one, all right. But let's go to the final. You've got to pick the one who's now going to be probably the greatest player of all time, at least from this 5 selection. You got to pick who's going to disappear from Liverpool's history between Kenny Dalglish and Steven Gerrard. Both, I think, have a legitimate claim to be called Mr. Liverpool for what they did for the club. So, Brian, how are you going to defend your choice, whoever it is? Who are you going to pick here?
It's going to be Steven Gerrard. I mean, as tough as that is right there, it's gonna have to be him. I think that the problem right there with I have to say right there, I think the whole back and forth. One, there's a couple of things there. Did he go missing in matches? Absolutely.
I just want to point out he went missing. What, a minute and a half into that Man United game when he
Correct.
came on
Where he,
and got
where he came
sent
there.
off.
I mean, he was set off right there. That right there. I mean, then you have to go back with. I mean, I hate to say it right there because we hear it all the freaking time. The slip right there that we allowed Demba Ba to came there to score that goal. I mean, that. I mean, you also have right there the iffiness right there of going over to Jose Mourinho right there to Chelsea. That whole thing went there. You have a couple of different things there, and I think also if you have to go back with Gerard as a kid, before Jed came there and took him under his wing, we probably never would have heard of Gerard right there. If it was still in the actual Roy was still in charge of them right there at that point right there. I mean, I think that we would have came there and that he would have been another player because we had other players right there that were equal to Gerard that were in the academy at the point right there. I mean, but never really excelled in there. I mean, and all that. So to me, it's got to be him. I can't put Kenny in there. I mean, the big thing about Kenny, I can't put him because the emotional attachment that he has to this club. I mean, not just as being a player, but being as a player manager, as a manager, as an icon. Hillsborough, so many different things right there that you can't erase Kenny Dalglish from our records. I mean, I think that if you want to go, I hear you say right there about two players being Mr. Liverpool, but when you look at Liverpool right there, you think of King Kenny. I mean, that's what you think of right there. I mean, of all us fans, so there is no good answer right there. But if you have to come out there and go with a person who's going to stand and say this is a highlight of Liverpool's of Liverpool Football Club, it's going to be King Kenny.
So, Zay, what do you think? Yeah, you think that Stevie G never had a bad game? And just to kind of make it a little bit fair that I made it on Brian, if you took the emotion of Hillsborough out of it and just focused on what Kenny did as a player and as a manager and player manager, does he still come out on top for you, or does Stevie G, do we contextualize it by the fact that he had such poor squads to play with? Like I mean, Kenny had some of the best players around him that were existing in Europe at the time. Stevie G had, Paul Konchesky and Christian Poulsen and Joe Cole. Let's be honest, John Joe Shelby. And not that we loved John Joe Shelby, but he still wasn't, Terry McDermott or Alan Kennedy. But is if we take the emotion of Hillsborough out of it, is there still a case for Stevie G to be made there, or is Kenny really truly Mr. Liverpool for you? What do you think?
Kenny's really truly Mr. Liverpool. I mean, he really is. I mean, there's no denying on that.
It's hard to discuss. I mean, you try. It's like picking your favorite kid, I guess. I think for us, being that generation that we saw all of these players, I mean, it's easy to choose Kenny as number one. I think to play devil's advocate with Gerrard, without Gerrard, we have no Champions League in 2005. And I think at that moment in time when Liverpool were on a decline, even with Rafa coming in, that 2005 Champions League final, to put us back on the map again. And, you listen to players like Salah and players of his generation who witnessed that game, they fell in love with Liverpool that day. And, and hence why we have players like Salah and so forth playing for us, because, they've been Liverpool fans because of Gerrard on that day. But then what Kenny's done for the club, all right, if you put Hillsborough aside, he's playing, he was a genius player. But even as a manager, he brought in John Barnes, first black player, apart from Howard Gale, but John Barnes, like Kenny Dalglish, he was just colorblind. And that's what I loved about him. He didn't care. If you're good enough, if you can play, you're good enough for the club. And he, again, that's what reminds me of Slot. Like, he doesn't overthink, it's just like, just go out there and enjoy yourself. There was no, tactics or anything else. Go out and enjoy yourself. you know who you're playing for. Just just be the best version of yourself. And he just, you can't understand anything he said in the interviews, but somehow managed to get his messages across. And it's that iconic celebration with the two arms up like that. And, and growing up as obviously as a Liverpool fan, he gave me my best moments, the double, the FA Cups, the league titles, John Barnes, just John Barnes being at the club, the amount, what he did for like the race relations of Liverpool at that time, and the amount of, black and Asian, supporters back then in the 80s that resonated with Liverpool because of Barnes. And it was Kenny Dalglish that had the foresight to bring him to Liverpool, where, technically our first black player, even though Howard Gale played for us a couple of games before him, but Barnes is the one who broke that mold. And yeah, so I'd have to put Steven Gerrard in, only because Kenny Dalglish is just, you can't knock him off his perch.
I mean, we might say we wouldn't have the 2005 Champions League without Steven Gerrard, but we wouldn't have had the second European Cup without Kenny Dalglish. It's much of a muchness. But I think, yes, I would agree, because obviously I grew up worshipping Kenny Dalglish. But I think the sign, if we want to talk about the whole possibility of going to Chelsea that time and flirting with Jose Mourinho, I think one of the best stories about Kenny Dalglish is that he grew up a Rangers fan, like diehard Rangers fan. The second he got a chance to go and play, professional football at Celtic, he went into his bedroom and tore all of his Rangers posters down. And his dad said, "What are you doing that for, son?" He said, "Well, I have to be a Celtic man now." And there he was. That's the integrity of the man. But yeah, I mean, it's not room 4-3-3, so they all go back into the history. That's the great thing about tonight. We get to keep them all. But I think there's no doubt when you come down to the analysis that Kenny Dalglish is Mr. Liverpool, but it's a close one. It's a close one. Next week we're doing the managers.
Yeah. And they don't deserve to be with Darwin Nunez or El Hadji Diouf anyway, so we can't put them down.
Yeah, we can't put them down there. That's why I didn't make it a room 4-3-3, just in case. So with that said, thanks for playing along, gentlemen. Good answers, good defenses, and good analyses of those players. They were mixed throughout the years, but that's the great thing about being a Liverpool fan, is that we've had absolute cracking players to idolise in a football sense. But just I grew up watching Kenny Dalglish, and he was just it. He would be Johan Cruyff if he wasn't Scottish. That's what he would be. And I say that as somebody who thinks Johan Cruyff is literally the best person who's ever played football, because his influences on everything. Not just as a great player, but his coaching influences on literally everything that happens now. If Kenny Dalglish didn't come from Glasgow and we could understand we understood a Dutch man better than we understood a Scottish man. That's how how different these things could be in the sliding doors universe. But yes, Kenny Dalglish, Mr. Liverpool, the best player, at least, who's been involved with the club as far as we're concerned. But if you don't agree, please make some comments, like and subscribe, and make comments and tell us why we're wrong and who you would pick instead. So with that said, gentlemen, thank you so much. I don't think he did. I think that's just marketing. I think that's just marketing. That's all that is. By what you call those guys, the Carver guys. That's what it was. So if you haven't done these things, these are the important things to do. You got to follow us on YouTube, and you got to follow us on Facebook and Instagram and X and Blue Sky and Mastodon, MySpace, Bebo, the ticker tape, and Morse code. All of those things, because then you'll know when the next shows are. I believe there's a morning coffee tomorrow morning, and that is worth catching up on, because that's where all the news happens, and we get to talk about that. And it is now dark on the East Coast, so if you're on the East Coast and you celebrate Eid al-Adha, Eid Mubarak, happy Eid to you guys. But Sir Z still has to wait. He still has to wait. But we wish him a happy Eid either way. Brian, thank you for joining us. Z, thank you for joining us. We'll probably have Cosy back next week. Peace out, everybody. Have a good weekend. Enjoy the rest from the football. We will be back next time, and we will have more shenanigans and more moral dilemmas, because that's what we do. We're handsome, we're bald, and we're very, very entertaining. except for Cosy. Only kidding. Have a good one. Peace out. Here's the funky music.